The Shootout's like the Super Bowl performance voting. And I'm like, what? That
gave me chills when you said that. That's so cool. The greatest week of the year at the Lake of the Ozarks is the Shootout. But you already knew that. But what you might not know is what the Lake of the Ozarks Shootout actually stands for. How much good that it brings to this area. And in recent months, even more recent weeks, there's been a little bit of controversy, a little bit of fake news, and dare I say, a little drama. So I've connected with the executive director of the Shootout to set the record straight, to educate us so we know how great this event really is, and to squash any of the rumors or the fake news that have been going around about the Shootout, about the Shootout's move to a new location. We're gonna talk about the Shootout history and several other things that you probably didn't know about the Shootout. So get comfortable on your couch because this interview might be one of the best yet. The Leah Martin.
The Leah Martin.
Executive Director of the Shootout, who can give us the entire skinny on all of the fake news, nonsense, and really just a lack of understanding and education about what the Shootout actually stands for.
Right, yeah, what it is.
So, first of all, how does someone become Executive Director of the Shootout?
I worked for national nonprofits my whole career. I worked for Boys and Girls Club for many, many years, and then I was a lobbyist for the American Lung Association, and I worked for the American Cancer Society. And whenever pre-COVID years and pre-director years, whenever they would work on a sponsorship, I remember Mark Mawson on a Friday night called me at like 9:30. It was my first conversation other than hi, like knowing who he was, because of volunteering with the Shootout. They were working with Chrysler Fiat and they wanted to sponsor the Shootout. And this is, like 2 weeks before the world shut down for COVID. We know what happened with the auto industry. And they said, hey, they're asking questions that we really just don't understand. And like from a national nonprofit, you probably get it. And so I helped them with that pitch. And so then when life happened and, the rest we all know now is history, right? I remember being in Hy-Vee and we got Chrysler Fiat to a yes. And then I called Mark and I was like, surely this is like 2 weeks, right? Like the whole world's just going to shut down for 2 weeks and the car industry will be back and everything will be fine. Obviously, that's not what happened. During that time frame, I decided that I was like zooming into the Capitol for meetings and doing, I sit on some statewide boards and everything was just from our house. And my father passed away. I had a baby at 40. So really like a life reset, that's my like midlife crisis, I guess, was I wanted to maybe not do all of those things the way I had been doing them. And so I called Ron Dugan and said, hey, I'm going to take some contracts for the Shootout or for nonprofits. Are you interested? And he was like, yeah, let's talk. And so obviously the rest is history. I actually took a couple contracts my first year along with the Shootout and quickly realized like, wow, this is a beast. It's a lot more than what I bargained for. And so I stepped back after that first year and really focused more time and attention on just kind of where we were as an organization, which was this amazing thing that saw substantial, massive growth. And so like that foundation was a little shaky because we just, we were everyone involved. Ron, the board, Mark, everyone involved was doing everything they could do to their capacity to like handle the instant growth and really the growth that happened during the COVID years because the Shootout still happened in 2020. We maybe were I think we literally were the only performance boating event that happened.
Makes sense.
We were probably the only event that happened. And I remember Ron tells a story that, he called Margie, one of our amazing volunteers who passed away last year. He said, they really weighed as a board that decision to have the Shootout that year or not have it because it's just so new. No one knew what to expect with what was happening in a pandemic. Yep. It's not like most of our generations had ever faced that before. And she said, we will be mad if we don't do it. And so they did. And so fast forward to 2022 post event when I started, actually, I guess it was 21, September of 21, we had just had this massive growth. So really coming into it, realized like we needed to put together some processes and some ways in which we handled it. Because it really isn't just the shootout. It's, the putt-putt tournament that we just had. It's the poker runs. It's all of the supporting events to make that one big number that goes to the charities.
And okay, so there's a lot to unpack just right there. So first of all, was there a Leah Martin before Leah Martin with the shootout? Was there an executive director? Did they have that person in place?
They had pieces of that person. So they had a person, and then they had hired like a part-time person, and so but I don't think anything consistent. When I started, there wasn't a person in that role, and but they had in previous years, there had been some.
So let's rewind before we dig into what you just talked about. For those that don't know, when did the shootout actually start? What year was it?
89.
1989 at Shooters 21.
At Shooters 21.
So, and if you're new to the lake, that doesn't exist anymore. Hasn't existed for many, many years now.
Right.
And so it started as like two guys like doing a drag race effectively.
Yeah. So I'm smirking because here's a fun fact I'll tell myself.
Please,
we haven't told the story. When I first started, if you go back and Google, there's stories that say we started in 1888. It ebbs and flows from our own our own editors over the years as that publications have changed. And so, because when you count to 37 years, my team laughs because I'm like, count it on your fingers, because it's not like 0 to 1, right? Like you're birthing an event. And so, so we sold a shirt that had 1988.
Oh, that's that'd be kind of.
Jeff Dorhauer said Leah was 89, and so I'm like, well, no one knows. It's okay. But I was cleaning up my drawers this weekend. I literally still have 2 of those shirts. And I'm like, should I ever wear this in public? I'm not sure.
I mean, that's probably a collector's item you could sell on eBay.
Well, it's kind of funny. Yeah. So our editor, who's currently at that time, I called her and I was like, Christy, it's 89, it's not 88. And she's like, that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, you have to count it on your fingers. Like, go 88, 89, And so, anyway, so the shootout really did start in 89, even though some shirts say 88.
So give us just a taste of what that was back then.
So really it was just 2 guys seeing who could outrun each other, and someone had a radar. And then it grew to, hey, let's make money for the lake area rescue departments, fire departments, ambulance districts. And so it was the lake rescue shootout. And that's really how I got involved. My husband is a Lake Ozark firefighter, 20 years on paid, and 3 years volunteer prior to that. So he started as a flagman on the start boat at Shooters 21. Wow. So so I volunteered. It literally it is. So my kids kind of got the short end of the stick because Luke was born in June and his first shootout was in August. And so until I became the director, they grew up on the start boat every year and got to have the coolest experiences. And now I did it my first year, and I had a nanny on the start boat with them to watch it. But as a mom, I was like anxious about it the whole time because I wasn't out there. Yeah. So now they're just nixed from the course until until they're old enough to be out there. But so it was the lake rescue shootout, and the fire departments would sell ads, the program guide that still exists today. The fire departments would sell that, and then whatever ads those departments sold, they got to keep that money. But you have to remember, 37 years ago, these were not paid departments. There were very few paid departments. There was maybe a paid chief or a handful of people. And so they used all of that to purchase fire equipment. And that was, I think Jeff Dorhauer told me the most amount they raised in a year was like $90,000. So it's substantially different now. But, 37 years ago, that helped them buy the dive equipment and the fire personnel, and and still to this day, there's trucks that we've bought and boats. Northwest Fire, I think was able to repower their boat with the money that they earned from the shootout dollars. So it still has that impact. But as that event grew, it grew from the lake rescue shootout. When Shooters 21 closed, it was actually purchased again just to keep the event open and have it like one more, I think it was 1 or 2 more summers. And then the facility just couldn't house that anymore. And so when that facility shut down, there was a board, the board of directors, which is still 80% the current board of directors, went to to the planning committee. I actually have, I can pull it out. I found in our files the when everyone went to Water Patrol, and to the previous board of directors, the Jeff Dorhauer era of the Shooters 21 group, and made pitches and proposals. And so the reason why the organization that still exists today, one, was because it went from really being fire EMS community based to, hey, the event has grown so big, we'll still include those guys, but now it's going to be full community based. And so the 501c3, the current 501c3 was formed at that time. I think that was in 2008. And that was when the race moved, but it's always been a separate 501c3.
So it was 89 to 08 at
and
Shooters.
I believe, yep, and then 09, I'm pretty sure
08 or
too.
09 and moved.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
And it's been at Captain Ron's ever since.
It's been ever since.
Until 2025.
Until 2025,
Which we'll get to.
Yeah,
We'll get to that. You pointed something out. Well, first of all, let me finish that conversation about the old days. Did you experience that? Did you get to go to those old races?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't a part of the lake then. My first experience with the shootout would have been, I guess, 15 years ago now. And it was Friday of the poker run, and I was dating my husband at that time. And Kent Morris called and said, hey, we need some help moving PWCs from Sardike Yamaha to the shootout. I didn't know the lake. I didn't know what the 21-mile marker was, and I certainly didn't know what the 34-mile marker was. I just knew I was on a boat. And I grew up on Current River, and so we had jet skis, and so now I know we're supposed to say PWCs, but everything was a jet ski to me. And so they said, hey, can you help? And so, you know what else happens on Friday of shootout, before shootout, is the poker run, where there's 100 boats going, 60 miles an hour. Per poker run rules, 60 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like these massive waves. So I'm with people I have never met. Justin's like, yep, she'll go help you. And so I get off of this boat with people that I don't know, and I get on these jet skis, and these guys just take off. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, obviously I know just to like keep following them. Sure. And we're literally on a PWC in the middle of the poker run, just like, I mean, it was brutal. It was so terrible. And I remember getting off, and I was like, I'll never do that again, ever in my life. Like, I move a PWC during the middle of the poker run. Did you hold true to that? So, never done that? I have never done that. No. Why didn't we trailer them and dump them out over there? I had no clue, because miserable. That was miserable. But, I mean, no better way to experience Lake of the Ozarks, like on a Friday in the middle of a poker run on a PWC.
Amazing. Okay, so I want to shift to what you mentioned earlier, which is the 501(c)(3). Now, I've gotten a ton of comments from just ignorant people, which is natural, of course, on social media, talking about all the money people are making as a result, that the shootout is making. Of course, businesses are making money as a result of the shootout, but the shootout itself is non-profit. We're
non-profit, correct. So, we're about making money for the charities.
That's the key, for the charities.
It's for the charities, absolutely. So, the cost of the event is a lot. I mean, we have helicopters and expenses and all of the things that we do to put on this. Literally, the shootout, according to the American Powerboating Association, came out a couple of years ago in a direct quote, we're the largest performance boating event in the world.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
The Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri.
It's the largest performance boating event in the world.
Race in the world.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And really, I thought it was like, we always touted that we're the largest unsanctioned boat race in the U.S. And I was like, didn't want to say that because, I'm not like a salesperson. And so but then as I started, like over and over and over again, just kept hearing, no, you are the largest event. And I'm like, and so you have Speedboat Magazine and Speed on the Water and all these guys that cover every event. And they're like, you don't quite understand. They're like, Leah, the shootout's like the Super Bowl performance boating. And I'm like, what? And so then,
that just gave me chills when you said that. That's so cool.
So then when APBA came out and made that statement, I was like, okay, we're going to claim it because they are the sanctioning body for everything that happens. So if there's anyone to say it, it's them. And, I just wanted to make sure, we always want to err on the side of caution and make sure that we're telling, the right things and not tales. And so, so we're the largest performance boating event in the world. And it grew from all of those people, the Jeff Dorhauers. And, rainy season was our first Top Gun. And I actually have the trophy out here. It has all of the Top Guns on it. And to where it is today, I mean, I think the first speed, we'll have to double check, it was like 107. It was just over 100 miles an hour, the first Top Gun. And we're over 220 miles an hour last year. So there's some big numbers. The event has just grown. And I think that's really, even in the speeds, shows how the event it's literally just grown so much. Yeah.
Okay, so I had to pause for a minute because she mentioned the trophy and it's in
here.
The building, and here is the actual trophy. And this is like,
and it was
vintage.
101 was Randy. And Don Onken's run from last year is not on the trophy yet.
Shit,
it's heavy. It's heavy. It's very heavy. So people make the mistake of picking it up by the cup handles, and we have repaired it a few times, and it may need to be repaired right now. Last year, right before the event, someone picked it up.
So basically wrapping all the way around, which I'll get some B-roll of this. Well, that's a good breaking point in this video, and there's a lot more to come from this interview. On the next episode with Leah, we continue to talk about the records and some of the exciting things coming, and the boats that have aspirations of not just beating American Ethanol, but breaking the lake record. And we get into the drama, and Leah puts to bed all of the fake news that has been going on about the shootout and tells us the facts. So if you don't already, subscribe to this channel and check back for part 2 of the interview with Leah Martin, the executive director of the Lake of the Ozarks Shootout.